Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are looking at an absolute game changer in the AI landscape. Anthropic just dropped Claude Sonnet 4.6 this February 2026, and it is seriously disrupting the market. You know, historically, Sonnet has always been their mid-tier model, right? It's balanced, it's efficient, but you'd usually have to step up to the heavyweight Opus model for the really heavy lifting. Well, scratch that. Sonnet 4.6 completely flips the script on the pricing to performance ratio. We're talking near flagship performance across coding, computer use, and agentic tasks, but it somehow stays at that mid-tier price point. So, it really boils down to this. What if you could get true flagship AI performance, but for a fraction of the cost? If you're an enterprise tech leader or a developer, you already know the struggle. There's this constant tug of war between capability and your budget. You obviously want the smartest model possible running your autonomous agents, but scaling an Opus-class model across millions of tokens, yeah, that's going to drain your budget overnight. But Anthropic is basically saying you don't have to make that compromise anymore. Let's dig in and see if the data actually backs that up. All right, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the Sonnet 4.6 upgrade. Second, frontier power at a mid-tier price. Third, mastering agents and computer use. Fourth, the massive 1 million token window. And finally, building with the API. Section 1, the Sonnet 4.6 upgrade. Let's take a clinical look at the model card. Okay, what's literally jumping off the page here is the pricing. Input cost is $3 per million tokens, and output is 15. Now, if you're already running Sonnet 4.5 in production, you know this pricing is absolutely identical. But look at the upgrade you're getting for the exact same cache. Output speeds are pushing up to 59 tokens per second. Latency to the first token is hovering right around just 1 second. And, oh yeah, there's a massive 1 million token context window currently in beta. It's a gigantic leap in capability, and it doesn't add a single penny to your invoice. Pretty wild. Moving on to Section 2, Frontier Power, Mid-Tier Price, Bridging the Capability Gap. When we stack the mid-tier Sonnet 4.6 directly against the previous heavyweight Opus 4.5, things get super interesting. Sonnet 4.6 scores 79.6% on SW Bench Verified. Just for a little context, SW Bench Verified tests if a model can take a real open-source GitHub issue and resolve it end-to-end. Hitting nearly 80% puts Sonnet 4.6 squarely in competitive territory for complex autonomous coding workflows. And remember, up until right now, that territory was pretty much VIP access only for premium, expensive models like the November 2025 Opus release. But you know, benchmarks are just controlled tests, right? What about actual real-world developer preference? Well, in early access coding tests using Claude Code, developers actually preferred Sonnet 4.6 over the flagship Opus 4.5, a staggering 59% of the time. And against its direct predecessor, Sonnet 4.5, it won out roughly 70% of the time. Users are reporting that it's way less prone to over-engineering, it follows instructions significantly better, and it actually consolidates shared logic instead of just blindly duplicating code everywhere. And this really hammers home the real-world impact. Michael Truhl, the CEO of Cursor, which is obviously a massive player in AI-assisted coding, notes that for teams running agentic coding at scale, Sonnet 4.6 is delivering the strong resolution rates and the consistency they've been desperately needing. Because let's be real, it's not just about getting the code right once, it's about reliable, rock-solid consistency across giant codebases. Let's jump into Section 3, Mastering Agents and Computer Use. This goes way beyond basic chat. To really grasp what this model can do, we've got to talk about OS World. This is the gold standard benchmark for AI computer use. And here's the kicker. It doesn't use special APIs or custom under-the-hood connectors. The model actually sees the computer and interacts with it exactly like a human would, literally clicking a virtual mouse and typing on a virtual keyboard across everyday software like Chrome or VS Code. Sonnet 4.6 scores an impressive 72.5% on this benchmark, which Anthropic themselves classify as a major improvement over the prior Sonnet models. So, what does a 72.5% score actually look like in the real world? Early users are seeing human-level capability when it comes to navigating really complex graphical user interfaces, executing multi-step workflows across entirely different apps, managing dense spreadsheets, and filling out multi-page web forms before aggregating all that data across multiple browser tabs. You are essentially handing the AI a virtual mouse and just letting it loose on your desktop to get work done. But it's not just about executing tasks. It's about strategy and planning. Check out this brilliant example from the Vending Bench Arena, which is an economic simulation that tests how well an AI can run a business. Sonnet 4.6 didn't just greedily optimize for short-term profit on every single turn. Nope, It executed a complex, long-horizon strategy. It intentionally outspent its competitors, investing heavily in capacity for the first 10 simulated months, and then, only at the very end, it pivoted sharply to profitability to win the whole simulation. The key takeaway here? Sonnet 4.6 is highly capable of deep, multi-step strategic planning over long timelines. Moving right along to Section 4, the 1 million token window. Massive context, but with some real considerations.
Okay, so 1 million tokens translates to roughly 750,000 words of text. That is absolutely massive. That means you can dump entire code bases, incredibly dense legal contracts, or dozens of complex research papers right into a single prompt. Think about it. You no longer need to burn engineering hours building convoluted retrieval systems just to chunk your data. You literally just throw it all in. And the best part, the model doesn't just passively hold this data. It effectively reasons across the whole thing at once.
But let me give you a quick practical warning here, because this 1 million token window is currently a beta feature. Its behavior might fluctuate a bit. And mathematically speaking, at $3 per million input tokens, if you're maxing out that context on every single API call, your costs are going to skyrocket fast. So if your pipelines are pushing near that limit, make sure you're monitoring your token usage like a hawk and budget accordingly. Finally, Section 5, Building with the API. Let's look at developer integration. The developer ecosystem around this model is just exploding right now. You can integrate it straight into your browser instantly, totally for free, using the Pudertur.js AI API. For the enterprise crowd, there are now MCP connectors sitting right inside Excel, which lets Claude pull live data from platforms like S&P Global or PitchBook without you ever leaving the spreadsheet. But honestly, the coolest new API feature is how Claude handles web searches now. It automatically writes and executes code to filter and process search results locally, keeping only the highly relevant content in your context window. That saves you money on tokens and seriously improves the response quality. And the enterprise validation is already rolling in. Hanlon Tang over at Dudarik notes that the performance to cost ratio here is just extraordinary. He points out a really critical feature. The model actually keeps getting better the higher you push its effort settings. It scales beautifully to handle their most complex agentic workloads, ultimately delivering Opus-level intelligence at a scale that actually makes sense to deploy across an entire organization. Which leaves us with this final thought. If you've been relying on older, slower, or much more expensive models just to get reliable agentic performance, the whole paradigm has just shifted. With Opus-level reasoning now sitting at mid-tier pricing, what legacy AI pipelines are you going to rebuild first? It might just be time to run your evaluation suites against Sonnet 4.6 and see the cost savings and performance leaps for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep building, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.